This is In the Loop. I'm Christian Bryant. Welcome aboard. For the next hour, we're bringing you a wide range of stories. In case of emergency, an oxygen mask will drop down in front of you. The Scripps News emergency exit is located on your TV remote. Please be aware that the nearest remote might be behind you. Pardon the cheesy airplane puns. We're starting tonight with a very common part of the flying experience, airport security. I know we've all felt that stress when TSA agents are rushing you to get all of your things straight. Hartsfield-Jackson Airport in Atlanta, Georgia. How many times have you gone through security and heard an agent shout at you, "Get your laptops out of the bag. Take your jackets off." But tonight, we're going to spend some time talking about the lines leading up to that moment and how they've become the latest example of yet another cost being tacked onto air travel. And to do that, we got to understand how we got here. Government agencies like the Department of Homeland Security and the Transportation Security Administration, or TSA, were created after the September 11th attacks. Federal regulations tightened up security in the aftermath. Since then, how you get through security has continued to evolve. While they've figured out how to use state-of-the-art scanners and other technology, one very visible problem has stuck around.
Here we are, 22 some odd years later, where we're still trying to figure out how to keep the line short. We're still trying to figure out how to keep them moving. A lot of people don't understand that moving the lines quickly is not just a efficiency function and a passenger experience element, it's also a security element, because the more passengers I have packed into a public area waiting to go through a screening process, the more vulnerable I am to things like suicide bombers, active shooters.
That's Jeff Price, an aviation professor at Metropolitan State University of Denver. He knows a lot of this firsthand. He was an assistant security director at Denver International Airport and also a manager of a smaller regional airport. He told us that there are a few distinctions within security. Most airports rely on the TSA to administer the process. A handful, including San Francisco and Kansas City, rely on private contractors, but they all adhere to tight TSA guidelines. So it looks pretty much the same wherever you go. But the lines can look very different depending on which airport you're at and how much you're willing to pay. Airport security lines now have multiple tiered options for getting through. There's the regular old line where all the rules apply. You pay nothing extra and you just need to show your boarding pass and ID. For $70, you can pay for a 5-year membership of TSA PreCheck, a government-run service that lets you use a separate line. Some rules are relaxed, like you can keep your shoes on. In exchange, you give a little more info and consent to a background check. For $100, you can get PreCheck plus 5 years of global entry run by U.S. Customs and Border Protection. It lets you zip by customs if you're coming back from abroad, but you do a little more, including an in-person interview. And then for $189 a year, you can get Clear. It's the only private airport security line jumping service that has a contract to work with the government. But for Clear, you're giving a lot more info about yourself, including biometric data like facial recognition and fingerprints.
What you're buying with Clear is you're buying a front of the line pass. It really doesn't have a strong security element to it. It's just moving it to the front of the line. You still have to go through the PreCheck line or the regular line once you're through Clear, so that we can still run the same security processes on you. It's just once you've done Clear, we know biometrically you are who you say you are.
Although Clear has had a head start on collecting biometric data, the TSA is evaluating whether and how to use that data itself. Down the road, it might be a part of getting their PreCheck membership. If you're concerned about the TSA having that data, there's some accountability built in.
There are a series of existing protections, existing laws on the books, relating back to the Privacy Act of 1974 and the eGov Act. All of these say that the US government must go through a process to say, why am I collecting this? How will I use it? How will I keep it safe? What are the risks to privacy of me holding it? How will I mitigate those risks?
Patty Cogswell knows her stuff on airport security. She's a partner on national security and defense at the consulting firm Guidehouse, which works with both government agencies and private companies. But before that, she was the former acting deputy administrator of the TSA. In the last few years, her firm has worked against legislation that would expand Clear's role in the security process. She warned that any private firm won't necessarily be following the same regulations.
They have different motivations, not not highlighting one entity in particular, but unless they have that kind of process where they have to go through in order for the end entity to acquire them, their motivation is to move quickly, to get something to market fast. These are the type of incentives you need to align in a law enforcement, in a security space, because you want something that's got a high quality to it.
Although, as Jeff noted, there's still a business interest in companies keeping your data safe.
Anytime you're going to give your information to a private company, they might not have to meet certain federal government standards for cybersecurity like TSA has to, but by the same token, they want to protect their client information from public distribution or from being hacked. So they might even have greater protections than what the federal government would require.
So much of this ties back to a broader issue in flying. It seems like everything nowadays requires an extra fee. Things like seat selection, checking bags, sometimes even carry-on bags can be subject to fees. Believe it or not, even bag fees can affect the security line.
I completely understand why the airline said, I might have a really solid revenue stream by using the belly of the plane to transport cargo. And so if every bag of a passenger means that much less cargo I can take. The flip side of it is what that meant for security is all of the bags that used to go down to the bottom of the airport, go through the big machines that are built for speed, suddenly we're going through the checkpoint. TSA didn't get additional money for that.
With Clear set for now as the only private option and the government offering several options, jumping the line is here to stay. And if you're doing it, you can expect built-in costs. The good news is, if you're a consumer, you might find a way around it. Summer Hull from the travel consumer advice blog, The Points Guy, told us more.
TSA PreCheck, which I believe they just dropped the price to $70 for 5 years. And there are a wide range of credit cards that will cover that application fee that will last you 5 years. And some of those credit cards are an annual fee of about that amount. So you can make your money back really quickly. And then there's Clear. Clear is by far the most expensive of the three. But there are also credit cards that will cover its annual fee. But if you're a member of United or Delta's frequent flyer programs, or you have one of their credit cards, you may qualify for a lower rate.